We're swapping out the headlights on the Prius. This is a 2006 Prius. It's a Generation 2. They run the same from 2004 to 2009. The Priuses are almost identical. 2004, 2005 are identical. 2006 through 2009 are identical. And the only differences between those two models is really small. For instance, the tail lights have a black plastic background behind the LEDs for the brake lights versus silver on the earlier models, 04, 05. They have the black around the top. On the later models, they have silver around the top. Headlights didn't change, so they're the same. And even actually, there were a couple of models of headlights available. This is the HID Xenon headlight that is an OEM headlight. This is the original. This is the replacement. There are also halogen headlights available, and those are more common, probably, and less expensive to replace. And but the procedure is the same for the most part, other than what I'm going to be covering here. And that is the HID Xenon headlights. Move the new one out of the way. The HID Xenon headlights have this ballast, which is part of the original equipment. The new headlight don't come with the ballast, and they don't come with this, the power unit. So this stuff has to be moved from the old headlight to the new headlight. This is the electronics and the shutter equipment. This all needs to be moved from the old headlight to the new headlight. So that's what we're going to be doing. In regard to removing the old headlight, there's lots of videos on YouTube about how to do it. So I didn't make one. Maybe I'll record myself putting it back in, and I'll reverse engineering. There are 3 screws, one at the top, one at each corner, basically. This one at the top is easy to see. Good morning. Putting new headlights in.
Sorry?
Putting new headlights in.
Ah.
So I'm doing a YouTube video about it. Talking to myself. The neighbors. So where was I? Yes. So all 3 corners have a screw in them. This one you can get to without removing anything. The corner on the inside corner of the car here, you need to remove the fasteners that hold the top of the front bumper cover in. And on this corner here, this is the toughest one, the outside lower corner. You have to actually remove the screw that holds the bumper cover. You have to reach in under the wheel well and remove the screw that holds the bumper cover. And then pull the bumper cover back and unscrew another screw. You need to do that. You need to do that to access 2 of the screws. So you're going to have to remove your bumper cover. Well, you don't have to remove it. You have to loosen it. Let's see if you can see this part here. You'll see it now. It's loose. It's still installed, but I can wobble it all over the place. I took out a fastener here, 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 and here. So there's 5 fasteners. 2 of them are called Radiator Protectors. It's a rubber bumper with a screw through it. Now this screw tends to rust in, and so, pardon me, if it does, if your screw is rusted, these things are about 10 bucks a piece from the Toyota dealer. When I'm replacing this, I went ahead and ordered new ones, so I'll go pick those up when they're ready. And here, when they don't come out, just unscrew with a screwdriver. You stick a Phillips screwdriver down in here. You guys can't see it, I'm sure, but there's a Phillips screw down in there. But if you can't, then you pull off the rubber part and it leaves this screw screwed in. The rubber goes over the top of there. So I pulled off the rubber and I used vice grips, clamped it on the top and unscrewed it. It screwed out. When I put the new ones in, I'm going to put a little anti-seize on there so that they don't seize up. It's a place where water collects. When you drive, water goes into the front of the car, so they get wet. Now, the bumper has this this slit in it. I think that is probably supposed to be facing, I don't think these are flat when they're in. I think they're tilted. And so the slit should be facing downhill, so any moisture that gets in there will run out. I think that's why that slot or slit is cut into there. Pardon me, I'm going to show this to my other camera for a second. These are the bumpers. There's the screw. And I pull that with a vice screw. The other bumper. Okay. So yeah, these are two of the screws that you have to remove in order to loosen the front bumper cover. There's another 10mm bolt out here on the corner. And then it gets loose and then you can reach it. Anyways, these are where the three corners are. Okay, let me look this back. This is the lights that I'm using to replace them with. It's actually kind of the only thing on the market, as far as I can tell, for replacing your HID xenon lamps on your Gen 2 Prius. Let's get a quick look. These were on the car, and what happened was, I don't know if you can see this, at some point when they were getting polished, you know, to take the haze off that starts accumulating on these lights. Remember, this is a 2006 model car, built in 2005, so it's like 16 years old now. And there's some swirl marks and some burns through here, and some general, and then it looked kind of a little bit dirty on the inside too, so I decided to go ahead and order new ones. Now, the thing that happens when new headlights come in is that's when you realize that your old headlights were really yellow and faded. You can just totally see the difference, especially at the top part of the light where most of the sunlight, you know, the sun comes from above, so most of it's going to hit here, and this is really yellow through here. Totally clear. You know, with the lighting, you might not be able to see it so much in the live version, but I'll tell you what, this is yellow as heck, and this is clear. And these have already been cleaned. These were dark yellow. This is the cleaned version where it looked pretty clean, and it's not. So, okay, so there we go. Here are the backs. Now this one's wrapped in plastic still. When it was in the cardboard box that I just pulled it out of. Okay, again, these are the. So that's what we got going on. And they're gonna go back in here. This is the lights I used. They weren't marked as Depot brand. I think I got them from carparts.com or A1 or something. About $350 for the pair. Now, here's what's going to happen if you go looking for Gen 2 Prius headlights. Is you're going to find a lot of headlights, even if you put in HID or xenon. You're going to see, yeah, it's going to pull up your search results are going to pull up a bunch of headlights, and they're mostly going to be less than $200 for the pair. $150, $160 for the two headlights. There's going to be some kind of aftermarket with different, some darker ones and stuff. Those are always only going to work with the halogen systems, not with the Xenon HID. There just is not an aftermarket anything for the Xenon HID that looks like, the Halo, the Angel Eye or Halo, or with a darker background, so that the car is all blacked out. This car and this big bright headlight really stands out, but that's what it is. So with the HID ones, this is it. Now people have replaced the lamp in the HID units with LEDs. There's some wiring stuff. You can find YouTube videos about that. There's problems involved with that. Like, are the reflectors built for LED lighting, and will they misdirect the light that comes out? And You know, these lights are pretty good. These HID lights. When I first got my first Prius, it was in 2003, and it was also a Gen 2, just like this. And people were amazed at how bright and white the headlights were, and I was too. You know, I don't know if headlights have gotten a lot better and these have stayed in the dust or what, but we're going to find out about that, aren't we? When I put the new lights on, I'm going to be able to compare them. Yeah. So, what are we going to do? We're going to start inspecting here and see what we got to take off of this old one to put on the new one. And there's two ways of doing that. One is I'm just going to start unscrewing the stuff that I know, which is this ballast unit needs to come out. By inspecting this light and comparing the two, I guess it's time to go ahead and take off the saran wrap off of this light. I doubt it's saran brand wrap, you know. So I'm going to take off the plastic film. So that I can see what lies beneath. And they're pretty similar. So here's what I see immediately. Get this where you can actually get some light on it, right? See? This unit actually is installed in the new light. This light bulb itself, this is a two-prong release scenario. I'm going to take out right now. I just removed the xenon HID lamp. I'm going to have to remove this and move it over. Actually, I bought new ones. These do go bad after time. They get dimmer after time, they say. And so I ordered new ones from Amazon. They're about 50 bucks a piece, $100 for the pair. And that adds to the cost, the overall cost, because these lights themselves were about $350. So it's about a $450 repair plus your time. All right, so here's the lamp. Now I'm going to have to figure out how to disconnect this. I just wanted to show you that it comes out. I'm going to show the other camera. I'm going to be putting together a shorter video on this. Okay. I'm going to do some editing. So here's the lamp. Now you don't want to touch this lamp. If you're going to use the old one, I'm going to keep this old one. A little quarter twist and it pulls out. It's an HID. It's a standard bayonet mount lamp. I'm going to keep this old one. I'm going to put it in the box in case something were to happen to the new ones. I know this is a good lamp that works okay. What you can see probably is that this section here, inside the glass, there's a little bulb, a little blob of glass, and it's white. It's like there's a discoloration that's white colored. And that's where it's been burning. So the new one will be clear there. And that's where some distortion can happen, I guess. I don't know. Don't touch this thing. You know, you can touch this part. Don't touch that part. I'm putting it on top of a paper towel over here in a protected place. All right. I'm not going to show you the new one right now. Well, maybe I will. These came inside a protected plastic thing, inside of a paper envelope. Thank goodness, because when the Amazon driver delivered it, he literally threw it, and it clonked on the ground. And I've got that on video, of course, because we all record our porches now, right? So here's the replacement lamp. It's a Philips D4RC1. That's the right color, the right size, the right everything. That is the OEM lamp, the original lamp that was used in the Generation 2 Prius. Okay, there it is. It's not protected. I'm not going to pull it out and put my fingers on it on accident. I just wanted to show it to you. Which lamp it is that we're going to be using to replace it. Now, so here's where we start looking at the two devices and determining what we're going to do that we need to swap between them. Interesting. And it looks like the main thing we're going to have to swap is going to be this unit here, which is the ballast. This is the ballast that sends the power to the actual like HID xenon lamps. And it did come with a new ballast gasket, which fits neatly in there. When I was researching these lights and looking at buying new lights, the biggest reason I saw for people replacing their lights, which oddly wasn't what I'm doing, which is because the old ones are nasty and yellow and scratched and stuff, but it was because the lights are full of water. They're existing lights filled with water. The water comes from a couple of places. Well, it comes from the outside and rain and what have you. And one of the places can be through this, if water's getting up into the car when you're driving in the rain and what have you, past this, through this gasket here. There's this waterproof cover that goes on here that, to be honest, I don't remember taking one off this one last night, the other one. Is it still on? Yeah, I'm going to pretend it's on the other headlamp and not freak out right now that one of these is missing. But this is the cover that twist locks over the actual lamp itself, the lamp assembly. This is kind of difficult to get to when it's inside the car. When you replace the HID headlamp, even just the bulbs, not just this whole thing, but just the bulb, a lot of people recommend you go ahead and pull out the light and do it here, because when you need to undo this spring clip, unclip this spring clip, this is usually gunked on with there's usually dirt and gunk and grime on here. You need to get this untwisted, and that could be a real pain. Getting this connector, in fact, on this one it was all grimed up, and I had a real hard time getting these connectors off this lamp because there was grime on there. I'm a cleaner. As I go along, I clean and degrease things. So I've done a little light cleaning on this, and I also totally cleaned out the inside here where the light fixture is. I mean, I cleaned all the connectors, wipe off the metal parts and everything. Why not? You're in there, give it a good clean start. The other place where I've talked about leaking, and there's a couple of places. One place is through the gasket underneath this ballast. Another is around this fixture here. Another is basically just kind of through the place where the clear plastic seams with the dark plastic. And that's apparently stuck with like double stick tape. These two pieces stuck together. I mean, I can see air through there right now. I can see light through there. You know, I don't know if this is even sealed. So, but the hood kind of covers on this, and so that doesn't really get direct. Well, anyways, water gets in past here. So I've heard of people, this is kind of a fix I've heard people do, is put this whole light in the oven at 200 degrees for about 8 minutes or something, and the adhesive will come unglued will come loose, and then you can peel the two pieces apart, and you can scrape out all the adhesive, and you put new adhesive in. It's basically the same adhesive that you use to hold the decals on cars. It's a 3M, a dark foam adhesive that is sticky on both sides. And you would lay that in there and squish it back in again. And you'll have to look up on the internet. Maybe you have to heat it up again then for a couple of minutes at 200 degrees. I can't remember. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just kind of talking about how to deal with water in your lenses. The right thing to do if you had water inside your lens is to replace it. I want to make that clear. So there's the third reason why people might replace these things. Now, pardon me for a second. Okay. Now, what are we going to do here? We're going to start unscrewing because we got to get this guy off. Now, one of the things, this is the ballast that converts the 12-volt power from the battery into the whatever volt power. Let's see, I can probably read right on it. No, of course not. The sticker that's on it says danger, you might die, death, high voltage, watch out. So that's something to be careful of. This clip, I was just checking to see, there's a metal clip here that that's attached to the light, and it's what the front of the bumper cover clips into. And I was just looking to see if I needed to move that, and no, there's a new one on the light, on the new light. I'll keep in mind that if if the new one doesn't fit properly, it's the same number of screws, I can disconnect the old one and put it on. Now I would clean this and paint it before I did that. So we're going straight for the cover for the HID headlights. Now, another thing is that there was a recall. Well, Toyota doesn't like to do recalls. They do what they call technical service bulletins. That's a TSB. Or there's another term they use that is not recall. It's a something campaign. It's not a recall. It's a something campaign. Nobody likes the word recall. Recall means that there's actually a legal difference. When there's a recall, the car has to be brought in, and the dealer has to do the service no matter what. All the models of the car that get brought in, and I think it's for the life of the car. And that's a legal thing. When there's a recall and your Pinto gas tank is possibly exploding, then the car has to go in and has to get retrofitted. I'm trying to think if there are any recalls on this model car, because I had one since the beginning, since they were very first released. I was one of the first people in California, in the United States, with one of these Generation 2 Priuses. And there was a recall having to do with the brake lights, I believe, the brake switch or something. So there was a recall about the brakes. If I remember that, they had to fix on every car. There was an issue with a fuel tank, with the fuel reading and the fuel gauge, and that they did as a TSB, and that means that they only had to replace it if people complained about it, and then they could verify the problem. There's this other thing in the middle, which is the ABS braking system in these cars, I believe, was covered under this other policy. And that is, if you bring it in and you complain about the problem, they will pay and fix and replace all of the stuff, the parts and the labor. And it was kind of an expensive one. But if you don't bring it in and complain about it, they don't fix it. And if you bring it in and you complain, you have to say the right thing. If you say something like, I understand there's a problem with these and mine's acting funky, I need it fixed, they won't fix it unless they can reproduce the problem, but they won't, that's not what they do. If you bring it in and say, hey, I understand there's a recall on this, they're going to give you a lie of omission, and they're going to say, no, there's no recall, which is technically true. If you say, I'm having a problem with this, and I've looked up online, I see there's a bunch of them that have problems, and there's a bulletin to look at them and replace them under warranty, that's iffy, and that's technically what it is. It's a warranty extension thing. So you got to be careful what you say, and the right way to do it, from what I understand, is to go in and say you're having that problem. Let them diagnose the problem and tell you about that they're going to replace it and fix it for free. And if they don't, they come back to say they want to charge you for it. Then you say, well, I understand there's a limited warranty extension on this part, and you give them a little bit of knowledge, and then they back down and say, yeah, we'll cover it. So there's a golden tidbit from what I understand. I haven't had that problem. The reason I brought all that up is because there was one of those things on this HID xenon headlight assembly. They replaced, it was burning out lamps and stuff, and those are, like I said, $50 a piece, the cheapest place I could find them. And I think it was burning out these ballasts, and those were really expensive. You can buy aftermarket ones now, but then you couldn't. And yeah, so if you're having a problem with your HID lights, before you go around mess around with them, look up online and see if, or go through there's a couple places online you can check to see what your car, what recalls or service bulletins have been performed on your car. And if this headlight thing hasn't, if the headlight thing hasn't been done on your car, there's two ways you can go. One is go, whew, I didn't have any problem with mine. It wasn't recalled. It worked fine, and there's no problem, which is the most likely. Or you might be able to go in and tell them that you're having the problem and have them replace the stuff under that service bulletin. I was just talking while I was pulling out, to kill time, while I was pulling out the old whatchamacallit here, ballast. So here we go. We've got the ballast unscrewed, and what are we going to find? The other side of the ballast. A couple of cables. This is the cable. It looks like the other end of the cable that has the lamp or the bulb plugs into. Now, one of the things that people have done this online and done this HID headlamp replacement online, what they say is these cables that I'm going to have to fish out here, these wires that I'm about to fish out, are a pain. That that this is the reason to take this lamp out of the car if you're just replacing the ballast or you can't do any upgrades or change anything on this without taking it out of the car, because your fingers you need to have little teeny tiny hands and fingers to reach around all the other stuff to be able to get in and fish these wires through. So I'm going to shut up and start fishing wires and see what I find here. So they're right. Here's the issue. This big metal housing here, there's actually a housing here. This metal housing here. And it's in the way. There's only a little bit of space here between the plastic outside and the metal on the inside. And the knob thing that I'm trying to fish through seems to be a little bigger than that. Yeah. They were absolutely right about that. 100%. I am now going to remove this unit right here. I think it just is a clip. I think it just clips right in to a base unit. Gotta get a screwdriver. Okay, it looks like this unit actually disconnects with a quarter turn to the left. And let's see if I can pull it out. No. Okay. Do not do this. This is the old headlight. I'm not worried. This, I believe, is the dimming unit. So in HID xenon headlights, they don't have two lamps like old school lights do, or the other lamps, and that is one for low beams and one for high beams. It uses the same lamp, and it has a shutter that moves, that shifts physically and changes the amount of light that's put out through the car. So this is actually attached to the inside, so that's not going to work. It's nice to do this on live video, so I can, like, you know, share the humiliation others have spoken about. Okay, I'm going to pull this back through the front end, and I'm going to look to see what the story is with. I'm going to take another look at this connector. I do this so that you don't have to endure this pain. Allow me to shoulder your burden. Okay, so here's what we got. This has like a shield around it because there's high voltage that goes through there when it's operating. One end connected to the ballast, the other end is connected to this large metal part that doesn't fit through the crack in the distance between the metal insert and the plastic outer shell. So what are we going to do about that? Looks as if I may be able to pass it underneath. Well, first, does the metal clamshell come off the top? Awkward. Yeah, I'm not talking, am I? Now who's not talking? Okay, so this one, there's a connector at the back end. It looks like I'm going to be able to unsnap this little connector and pull it out. People were correct. when they said that you'd have to be a masochist to do this while it's still in the car. Okay, this is now disconnected. There's a little push tab here, you push in and then you pull it out. It's a very tight fit. So now the dust cover from the cap is removable. 50% of the problem right there. Now, I'm going to look to see whether I pass this through here or this through here. Now is where it gets interesting. I'm going to try to pass it through one more time. Find a space just large enough for it to pass around. I'll tell you, folks, I'm having a hard time seeing how this can actually work. Without removing this shutter. Boring, huh? Good thing nobody's watching. I'm starting to think that this wire has to be cut. I'm going to go back and check the internet and see if I'm pretty sure I read that people said they've been able to do this if they had little fingers, but I'm looking at the spaces and I don't see enough clearance space in there for this to fit through. So, yeah. There just isn't room for that to fit through. So I'm going to end this recording. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.